Right, it's 3 minutes past, so let's get started. Welcome everybody to the July 22nd SIG Multicluster call. Jeremy, would you mind sharing the agenda? My Zoom just crashes if I try to share stuff. So
Yeah, just a second.
I can do
I
it too
just
if
got
you
a new
want.
computer.
or Laura, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got you.
I literally
Gotcha.
just got a new computer, so I'm getting it set up.
Please hold 1 second. That's this. Enhance.
Excellent, thank you. And so I imagine Arthur and or Tom, you can talk about the service export and service import conditions and IP families. Arthur or Tom, you around?
Yeah, what is this one now? Oh, the conditions. This is
Yeah.
Mr. Freeze X. Yeah, I thought this was all set, or is there still discussion on this? I haven't followed this looked at it in a while.
Yep, catching up.
Scrolling through here.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess the main discussion is whether we, well, assuming the change is okay, there's two parts of it. One is removing the old service export condition except, no, service export valid and service export conflict constants, and then adding a bunch of constants that replace those.
Okay, so the last, if you stop there, you go up.
What's that?
Oh, who's scrolling?
Keep scrolling.
No, who is scrolling? Sorry, I was trying to figure. Well, right there. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Well,
This one?
exported versus ready. I think. So the original proposal was to have a condition called exported. Other suggestions was ready or something like that. I think we decided on exported, but then Mr. Freeze X then kind of went back to saying we should make it ready. So I'm not sure. That seems to be the last. Is he on the call? I thought he was.
Yeah, he was on initially dropped.
Yeah,
but I think it's back.
I'm on right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, so originally you were proposing exporting, Mike Morris proposed that, I forget, but I had suggested possibly ready, but then I thought exported makes sense as well. But I think we all agreed exported, but then you went back to ready. So I'm not sure why, but I guess that's where this stands, maybe.
May I also ask, did, it's way up here about, wait, no. Did this conversation about like a V1 alpha 2, et cetera, get resolved? Do we recall?
Wait a minute, so what
So-
was?
So that, I think
Sorry,
that's
that's a separate bullet point, but just in the
Yeah.
category of bullet points that maybe we can discuss right now if they are solved to sufficiency. So let's talk about, sorry to derail, but
No, these aren't really like suggestions. I mean, these are just named names of conditions and stuff like that. I mean, do you really consider those part of the API per se, or does it need to have an alpha E1, alpha 1, alpha 2 consideration?
Well, technically, I think if we drop the constants, it would have to be a new
we just
alpha.
drop,
But
yeah,
Jeremy's-
I guess, but I guess we're just dropping constants. It doesn't mean anybody can still use whatever they want.
Just the
Well-
current SIG is not dropping it, it's just deprecating the old one.
Yeah. So
Well,
that would be okay.
And renaming, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I'm generally against. As even like the new things, I think make sense. I don't. I think yeah, the proposed new names might be better, but I don't think renaming is a good. I don't think it's worth it. Like there are implementations out there already.
Yeah,
I think like the new if there's something fundamentally wrong that's different, if it's like we picked a kind of ugly name and there's a better name, which I agree with, it's still I'd probably keep what's there. And if we're just adding new conditions that we want to make canonical, that's not a breaking change. It's just more
Right.
information. That seems fine.
yeah, I kind of felt originally that way as well. We shouldn't change them, but there was strong feeling from Mike, at least Mike, I guess. I'm sure about Arthur, about changing like conflict. I forgot what it was. Maybe we should go into the BIOS change to see, to remind ourselves what's being changed here. Because again, this has been like weeks since I've looked at this. But I think it was basically changing conflict to conflicted
Yep.
to match something else, gateway API or something like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I just wouldn't make that change at this point. I think.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I kind of was originally thinking the same thing, but it's not a lot to migrate either. If we did want to change those, so I'm okay with either way. But I think there was invalid. What was that? What's the other one? If we
I think
go up-
there's a valid.
Yep. I think
Which
they were
looks unchanged. Oh yeah, no, it is deprecated. Yeah, we're saying use accepted instead. Like
accepted.
I-
Okay.
I wouldn't make either of those changes. I think adding the reasons makes sense. In my experience, renaming things is just always more headache than it's worth, unless there's something
Mm.
fundamentally wrong. And this just seems like we prefer different words. They describe the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think this is trying to align. Mike suggests us to align with the I guess it was the gateway API maybe.
Yeah, the gateway.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I'm joining late.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I get it. I think it's probably just too late. I wouldn't make that change at this point.
If I may, like the original, well, the discussion came up from like adding reason because the original API wasn't adapted for reason because it was pre Kubernetes adding condition and the reason didn't existed, wasn't required or something. And
Yeah, the reasons make sense.
Yeah, but then I mean, like implementation, I think use condition in a wrong way because of the recommendation that we made. Well, you guys made like a bunch of years ago when the condition didn't existed, so they probably would have to do something about it anyway. So this was a bit the reason behind like starting from the ground almost.
Yeah, like if we want to expect the reasons, implementations are going to have to update this spot in their code anyway.
Yeah, I just wouldn't rename anything. That's I
from
get
what-
the cleanliness, but in my experience, it's just it's never been worth it.
But then if we take the same reasoning, we don't change the service import API too.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. I mean, a bigger
Yeah.
thing that we're proposing is moving these fields out of to root. I mean, that's a huge, inconvenience for people. I mean, this is extremely minor, but so I don't know if we're being inconsistent there.
So if I think about how like this kind of thing gets implemented, there's conditions are likely set in one place. I mean, you set the condition when you figure out what's failing, and then you're going to have like a update condition method, and you change that once, you'd have to go chase the strings down. I mean, maybe it's not a big deal. I've never found renaming things to be worth it. If everybody feels strongly, sure. It just I've literally never once seen a name change of something that's been in production be worth the effort and pain that it causes, however minor.
I will say that we did have some prior art over in Gateway API. It was while we were still beta, but we definitely had significant number of implementations that had been implemented and using it at that point, and we did a pretty significant overhaul of conditions to make them more consistent across many different objects. I can dig up the gap.
No, I get it. I know, and
yeah.
yeah, like I know we've had some of that churn in Gateway. Like, I'd also question if the renaming things was actually worth it there too. So that's my bias here. I'm not gonna block it. Like names just don't matter that much versus the effort that comes from chasing strings down in various places. That's been my experience.
But actually, maybe it's even easier to migrate if you add proper reason and change the type, because the old one are just, you can just remove them. But yeah, I don't know.
Just one comment about this, and is that it seems for this PR there is a version possible where we only add new things and don't rename some stuff. Whereas, for example, the changing stuff into root, there is no world where we only add new things and just rename stuff. It's only about renaming stuff. And I think like
Right.
some of these arguments right now may still apply when we get to the point of approval for that other one too. But I do think in this one, there is a possible world where we only add new things. And maybe that's like, I don't know that that's like as Jeremy said, he's not going to hard block on having a rename, but it is like an avenue forward that still gets some of the value. And I guess maybe my
Right.
question is that a lot of the value or most of the value, or is this adding the stuff to be renamed like core to the value add?
And my reading of it, thanks, Laura. Yeah, like this PR doesn't move anything around, so it could be purely additive.
Yeah, maybe that's a good compromise, at least for now, like. I mean, I think everybody agrees adding reasons,
Yeah,
is good. And I think we're adding a new, defining a new condition in here, exported or ready, or whatever you want to call that one, which I think is okay. Maybe we should just reduce the scope of this. That would be fair, and not rename anything, just add. That'd seem reasonable. We can always have a further, so we can make some progress here, because we could always have further discussions on whether we should rename,
Right.
valid to accepted later on. But I'd like to see, I think it'd be nice to make some movement on this.
Yeah, I mean, we should
we
definitely add the reasons. I think that's it.
Yeah, okay. I think the only other question here is about, we're trying to express the fact that, so the valid condition says, yeah, I've accepted this, I can export this, this is valid to be exported, and then conflict, we know, is self-explanatory. Then, just for background on others that haven't seen it, the other new condition type that we were defining here was to say that we actually did export it, or it's ready for use, ready for import, or however you want to define the semantics of the type name, ready or exported or whatever. So, but I mean, again, we could not add that now and just add the reasons for the existing ones and debate this new condition later. If we want to just make immediate movement, or we can, if it's a short debate, we can make a decision. Do we like export it already?
I guess that's a question I have, and this kind of goes along with John's comment in the chat. Is it the removal here that is the problem, or is it ever renaming things? So like, I guess I'm asking, like, what would opinions be on potentially introducing something like an accepted condition, saying like, this is an analog to what is currently the valid condition, and in the future we expect to deprecate the valid condition or something like that.
But why? Like, they're the same thing, right? Like that. Two is definitely worse than one, and accepted and valid. Like, accepted is probably a better word than valid, and in hindsight, what we should have chosen, I think, that's really what we're trying to communicate, is that like the system has internalized this service, but they're the same thing, and one of them's in use. Like, I like both the suggested names better than what we chose, but renaming is not, it's just like, we don't really gain anything out of it, except we like the words better, and we're, most of the time this is going to be something machines deal with anyway, and they both communicate the intent.
Okay, so what's our way forward? At this point, we just add new things in this, define the reasons.
I mean, that's what I recommend. Again, I won't
Yeah,
block it, so
I
happy to be
agree.
outvoted. But
No, I'm totally on board with that. I just want to make movement here. It'd be good. We got it, just to move forward with something. I mean, Arthur put some thought into this, and so we can always debate whether we can rename later at some later date. And I think the real purpose of this was to add reasons, and that was the real purpose of this PR,
Yep.
right, Arthur? Not to rename things.
Yeah, for sure. But I think renaming is a good time now, because we are like.
Can we do it in another
one
PR?
beta one?
Yeah, can we debate that later? Let's make movement now?
Well,
And
but
your original proposal was to add reasons not to rename, so let's do that. Let's make some
Yeah, but-
progress.
if we were to merge that without renaming the type, we would like deprecate when moving. We would deprecate like 10 new fields instead of 1.
Yeah,
Constant.
it would be adding something that would require implementations to make a change to like use these new reasons and then immediately get rid of them.
All right, then let's make a decision. Do we rename them or not? I'm kind of ambivalent on either way, but I totally see Jeremy's point. I'm fine with just leaving them as they are.
Yeah, a bit similar, but if we do not rename it now, we probably shouldn't expect to rename it in at least a
Right.
few years, I guess.
Exactly. Right. Let's just decide, and we should be able to make a decision. Should we rename it or not?
Yeah, I think that's Jeremy's point. We shouldn't ever plan to rename them.
Yeah, what I mean, what do we really gain? That's like they mean the same thing.
I guess, Mike, I think it was your original proposal to rename this. And
Mhm.
I think we all agree they're good names.
Yeah.
But given that, I know you're trying to align with Gateway API. Do you see this as a serious issue to going to beta or graduating if we don't rename?
It's not that I see this as a serious issue. I think it's basically the question that Arthur raised a few minutes ago of like, is this an API that we can make changes to or not? It feels like kind of a fundamental question here of like, if this is fixed and we expect implementations will not be changing, then like it's frozen, it is what it is.
I mean, there are several mature implementations out there. Like this is, we slow rolled this. Let's be honest, and it has the side effects of like all the perma betas that we tried to get away from.
Yeah.
And like we should. I don't generally consider MCS as something that can be changed willy-nilly at this point because of just how long it's been around and how much use it's got. It is alpha, so it is technically within our rights to do so, but it's expensive to do so, and it does have impacts. And so, like, I would bias towards not changing things unless we think we're fundamentally missing stuff. I think like standardizing reasons is a good move, for example. Like that's very straightforward. I think there's other things we've discussed here where it makes a lot of sense. Like we had parity with service updated, we need to update as well. There's things like that. I don't personally consider it that flexible because I just know how many different places are going to need to catch up, and it can happen, but it may not happen quickly.
Just I mean, like I would see the current deprecation, it would be kind of supported everywhere, like in the conformance sense and all of that, probably until V1 beta 1 where we would drop it or something like that. So they would have time to do so.
Yeah, and I think like especially like having Tom's input like from the Submariner perspective as like an existing implementation, I think has been really valuable. And yeah, like this is not a change that I would have proposed or suggested like on its own. It's more of like, if we are at a point where we are trying to evolve this and potentially have a like breaking change on the path to beta, then like, is this a thing that we want to do at this point? Like, it's not something that if we were otherwise fine with moving things should be changed, but it's like, we have a chance now. Do we want to do it? If we, yeah.
I don't know how much this opinion carries much weight, but I think like for we're like definitely going to be kind of caught in this like realm of like, well, if we don't technically move it, then like to beta, then we can like still make changes for like as long as we want, I guess, or as long as we like go down the rabbit hole of those things, because of course there will be like a million. So like some stuff is like not gonna make it, and like some stuff will have to like live with like bad decisions. And I think that there's varying levels across like this, even just this call, and like people who have like worked on it, of like where we are in that spectrum. So I think that's kind of like a fundamental aspect of this. For this end, it feels like for the like changing how service import works, both felt like they were very much of like, well, we have a chance, like now is our time if we're going to do it. And I'm like, while we're having this conversation, I'm not sure how like open we really like ultimately we felt about like if that really was the time, or like if we still had time. Or maybe another way to say it is like if we feel that we have the like uh will to go around and like help and support implementations to change this, because I think that's like the other half of this. If we think that we have like the troops, I guess, to like go and like do that, then I think that's one thing. And is maybe something that Gateway API in particular, because I think that has been a strong like inspiration in some of these decisions to like pursue some of this. That if like we have the footwork that we can do to kind of like move that around, or like the tooling and stuff, or the bandwidth to make the tooling or to release the tooling or whatever, to me that seems like a really important factor that only increases in complexity like the longer we like sit on MCS and alpha, even though like stuff is like in production elsewhere. So yeah, these are more like some observations. If it came down to just like my pure opinion, I also feel like MCS is like pretty like pseudo beta at this point, and like the gains need to be huge for us. It needs to be like this can't interact with this other thing that like everybody uses, or like this tool really depends, this tool that everybody uses at the level of being like, I don't know, kubectl or whatever, like it has to match the string exactly or something. And that's the reason I'm not sure that we're like at that tier for these cases. So that's like both my personal opinion, and then prior to that, kind of the overarching pressures that I'm observing.
Well said.
Yeah, that perspective makes sense. Thank you for sharing.
Maybe one more thing too is that like it's not very obvious when a SIG says like no to something, you know, like some of these conversations have even happened in the past, but it's not like there's like a little pop-up box that like opens up when like you try and open a PR or comment on something that's like, yo, we talked about this or whatever. Not that that's super specifically these cases, but I think in general, like that type of thing doesn't surface as like easily when we're like thinking of making a change. And maybe like, yeah, that can be just like sort of hard to like get that context out, and then also apply that to like whether something has a big enough impact to move forward or not.
Laura, to your point, and maybe kind of a thought that I've had as this discussion's been going on, is the user impact, right? Where I think Jeremy, you rightly pointed out, you know, changing this is a lot of work for downstream projects. If these strings, which are slightly confusing, but you know, still can kind of make sense in the context, were just way off, and downstream projects were saying there's a really large support burden because of this, or if we at the SIG were feeling there was a really large support burden, being able to have somebody articulate that might make sense. But I think to the point that MCS is has gotten a fair amount of adoption, of people aren't screaming about this, it kind of makes it seem like it's under that threshold, wherever that threshold might be, where it is less work to change than more work to change.
just to bounce back on what you just said, like I think adding the reason in Cilium and migrating the type is equal amount of work for us. Like it probably would be around, I don't know, 1 hour of work. But in both cases, I would do this 1 hour of work.
Useful data point.
Am I correct in thinking the GKE implementation of this is closed source? Is that accurate?
Yes. Okay, do we feel like I've captured everything in this comment?
I think so, yeah, but is there agreement on a plan forward? I mean, if Arthur revises this to drop the deprecations and keep valid and conflict, is there anything else we'd have to discuss? Or is that actually not possible because of the type change?
I think technically
No,
I
it's
would
separate.
I would
Sorry, go ahead.
still have the deprecation, but just as a mean to change the name of the Go counts, not the API, well, the value around it. That's...
Right, so keep the strings and add new, keep the strings, but change the, well,
the symbol, yeah.
Add new constants and deprecate the old ones. Yeah, my experience is that in practice, even just deprecation turns out to be a breaking change for many people, because most projects nowadays have linting that breaks if you use any deprecated stuff. And so I know that's not what deprecation means, but that's how it's used in practice.
But it also makes sense. Like it's a deprecated solution way. But it would be one line change if they don't want to tweak the...
see, yes, it's a simple enough change, yeah. Yeah. I'd be okay with it at least.
But also, I guess, I'm not even sure if like Microsoft and GKEs are impacted. I guess it's mainly Cilium, Antria, and Submariner that are, because well, you guys fork the API, so
right.
I don't know how much you depend on those.
Right, so probably not. And as you say, it's an easy enough change anyway if the constant is deprecated. Okay, so does that sound like a plan? Going
Yeah,
once?
I'm fine with it. As long as we don't rename afterward.
Yeah.
I didn't totally catch it, but say
Yeah.
it again and I will write it down.
So the plan is for Arthur to update the PR to keep the existing strings, but still add new constants for them with more explicit names and deprecate the old ones. So essentially, it will be the same PR as currently exists, except that the string values won't change compared to what we have already for the two reasons that exist.
Isn't that how it already is? Sorry.
No,
Like,
currently it's new symbols and new strings. Like the plan is to make new symbols, but keep the same
strings.
Okay.
New symbols and old strings. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Got it.
All right, thanks.
Bam.
And we can move on to the next one, which is very similar, but all new stuff. 113.
So to put this in context of the prior conversation, this is, like you just said, this would be like additive
Yeah, this one's easy.
in the, if we judged it by the prior conversation's merits, I guess.
Yep. Looks good.
Okay. And we have LGTMs from peeps who are involved. Okay. Is there any other like strong comments about this, I guess?
I think the one to highlight, well, that you, Laura, highlighted,
Yep.
I think, about the, well, the link to the status change that we may or may not do.
Right. Yeah. So I think this is more of a timing question maybe than anything else, because I think like we can judge this on its merits independently in one sense, but whether how it merges or whether it impacts whether this other thing happens regarding service imports shape changing, I think it has some philosophical like implications to that question, but also I think we can technically get around it if we think that having this conditions is like important in a way that's different from everything else that we were talking about in the other thread. So yeah, I'm basically just I think we're going to end up talking about this maybe today, but I do think like they can be separated. Like it's a bit of a like brain gymnastics to do so, but I do think it's possible.
Sorry, can or cannot?
I think it can
okay.
be.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was gonna say I agree. I think
Yeah.
that like this is honestly like adding a status and conditions thing on the import is somewhat independent of doing anything with the fields in spec. I think this is a
Yeah. Okay.
good change regardless of that.
Yeah, I think it's like a data point into that other conversation that we can, in the context of that other conversation, decide if it's a different enough or important enough. But yeah, I think this thing is not like hard blocked on that. So just orthogonal. So I'm going to make a little note. Okay. Do we feel like we can move on from this one? Okay, I'm getting some thumbs up. Here we are. Let's see.
Yeah, I think this was mainly a conversation between Mike and me. Well, I was pro adding it, obviously, because I'm proposing the PR, and Mike had some reason against. And I think the rest of people here was neutral in a way. If I summed up correctly.
Yeah, that's right. And I think everybody else was waiting with bated breath for Mike's update.
My update is I've been on vacation.
Nice. Okay, that's fine. Group. I'm getting that group still wants to follow up on conversation.
Maybe we can talk it separately, Mike, like of the call or something, because I made a schema, but you were unfortunately not there to support my theory and all of that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. Okay. Back to this one.
I think we had data point, but we are kind of now waiting for the other change to make in, I guess.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Well, I think we have all the data points from most implementations.
Okay,
but well, maybe we can wait for this service infrastructure to get in, and well, we have the opinion conversation, because now we have what the implementation is doing, but not the opinion necessarily. And yeah.
Okay. Well, I think, yeah. You just said this, but just to like confirm, I think it's fair to say that we feel we have the info from all the implementations we were most worried about. Is that what?
Yeah. What they are doing, at least, not necessarily their opinion, because this was mostly, do you have these two controllers like SIG or you do not, or things like that. Yeah.
Right. Question, and then we are going to finalize. We're going to use our brain energy to this first, and then we need to interpret the information we have from this discussion to decide how to move forward with. Do we have I'm just going to copy this. It's kind of like spread out. The effort. Okay. Any other comments on the status of this? If not, I'm moving right along.
Yeah, so I added this one, although it looks like Corentin is actually here today, so he could also speak to it. But basically, we just would really like to get this submitted. It's been kind of waiting for about a month for approval. So yeah, Jeremy and Stephen, if you get a chance, please take a look. We'd love to get some implementation stuff started. So.
Yeah, is this note still, like, this note implies to me that it was like kind of still open for general comment. Not that it's ever not, but like, is that not really the status that you perceive it in anymore?
I think, you know, at this point, you know, there's been plenty of time for any comments, so we're just looking for approval.
I just want to update. Cool. Okay. Not expecting more community comments. Okay, I think it might, I'm not sure that since we don't have any agenda topics, do we want to kind of like take a little bit of a look here?
Yeah. I'll add to that. There are implementations waiting for this, right? I think on the multicluster runtime, for example.
Sorry, I'm just going to click around chaotically for a quick second. Okay, implementations are waiting for this, and then let's reestablish group mindshare on this.
So if you click on the document button at the top right,
Oh yeah,
it'll show you a better view.
Yes. Nope. This one.
Yeah.
Nope.
That one,
Yes.
yeah. That's it.
Okay, and then I also want to just click over here really quick and click through because there was a POC. I don't think it's that. Is it that? All right, I'll come back to that if necessary, but yeah, this is about, I mean, it's a lot of words, but, oh, and do you mind giving like 60-second elevator pitch? Reestablish context to us.
I think maybe I'll actually defer to Corentin since he's on. I mean, this is
All
kind
right,
of his,
Corentin, you
his
have to work
baby.
now.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'll do a little bit. Hey guys, happy to be here. For credentials, it's a pluggable way to obtain credentials in a cluster profile.
Okay, they expect a prototype for a controller. I mean, you had 90 seconds. You could have gone a little longer, but but yeah, okay. So we're saying that peeps need to make this.
And so it's pluggable, so it's via an exec. So it's an exec way. So you have a tiny library and you have config, and then the cluster profile says what kind of binary they want or what kind of config they would want to exec. And then you have configs on the other side of on the controller that you said, and you say, okay, those are the binaries I have that I can exec. And basically when you get the right cluster profile and you have the right credentials issuer for them, credentials provider for them, it's a match made in heaven, and you get credentials by execing the right one. And we pass the whole cluster info, and it's the exact same protocol as what the kubeconfig has. So that's one of the beauty of this. We did not have to reinvent the protocol. It's the exact same protocol. So we can reuse existing binaries, like the GKE one, for example, just to give an example, what I know.
Sure.
We reuse the exact same binary that the kubeconfig uses. But that way, there's a lot of things we can reuse and all. So that was one of the main thing that we discovered. And the PR.on linked is so 17 is merged already. This is like an example of that working. So and I know I've seen some PRs fly by on multi-cluster runtime actually starting to use this PR, this library. So I think there's already traction, sort of, kind of.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, as Owen said, I don't think there's anything left. I don't think there's been any comment on that PR for a month and a half, 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, from my perspective, I think it's fine. The last discussion point was really about exec versus plugin, but having to rebuild everything just to add something new seems undesirable.
Right.
Yeah, that was one of the requirements, which was you should be able to create new plugins without having to require the controller to be recompiled. Because like if you take a multi-cluster runtime based controller and you want to create your own provider, you don't want to recompile the controller. If you're taking Argo CD, for example, just one in the while, you don't want to recompile new Argo CD because you had a new provider. I think in the future, once the providers kind of stabilizes, we could think about, oh, you know, some providers are pre-built and so you don't need to bring them in. But I would rather see that as a future improvement than a the starting point. So that would be my suggestion. And the reason I joined that call, by the way, is like Ryan and I have submitted a talk to talk about this for KubeCon. So I just wanted to make sure that we haven't dropped too much on this.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Oh, and I trust you. You'll get it. No pressure.
Okay. Yep, I see. Okay. And then this has a LGTM on it, right?
Yeah, I just added it.
Okay, yeah. Oh, nice. Okay,
But it'll disappear again once
Sure.
if Quarantine
Okay.
squashes the commits. But I'll add it
Okay.
again.
All right. Good talk. A good talk during SIG-MC, and we think we are ready to move forward after that.
Yeah,
Good job,
I
y'all.
always find it weird reviewing KEP changes because the KEP template says we prefer to iterate quickly, but there's so
No,
much.
never
so
happens.
much. It never happens, and it's not just
Truly
SIG-MC anywhere.
I know.
There's so much. KEPs are perceived as such heavyweight things that. Yeah.
They've grown in time, I think, and all in reaction to real things, but yeah, the bureaucracy is there for sure. Okay, those were all the scrub, and we don't have any other topics, and I think we're out of time.
Pretty much, yeah. We've just got 5 minutes left.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone, and thanks Laura for taking all the triage notes. Yeah, and yeah, look forward to the updated PRs, and we can actually merge them. So have a good week, and see you next time. And Quarantine, enjoy your time off.
Yeah,
Thanks,
get out of
Phil.
here, quarantine.